Good questions. Let's bring in Anthony Seaboyer, who is a military and national security expert, with his take. So can you do that? Can Israel push forward into Rafah while at the same time trying to negotiate some kind of ceasefire?
Well, we see that that's kind of the strategy at this point, but Netanyahu has also clearly said that the current offer is not sincere by Hamas. So it looks like he's not putting much faith into the current negotiations. So we're seeing clearly ongoing attacks in the city of Rafah, despite, as you mentioned, 1.4 million civilians being there and lack of support really from all Israeli key allies. We've seen the U.S. clearly holding the weapons back, heavy weaponry back because of their potential use in Rafah.
Is that going to make any difference to the Israelis? Because they certainly don't seem to care too much about world opinion, Anthony. I mean, many countries have said they should not be going into Rafah. That includes the United States, who has said it numerous times. Look, you can't go in there unless you have a plan to protect those civilians. Israel says it has a plan. The U.S. not confident in that plan. The Israelis going in anyway.
Yeah, and that's a very big difference to what we've seen before. I mean, a few months ago, it would be unthinkable that the U.S. would stop weapons delivery. They're very close allies, working very closely together. There's lots of trust has been in the past. And I would argue, if we look at Biden's wording this week, there is still support, large support being given, financial support, and also military support. Just the heavy weapons are not being given. So this is a level of lack of trust that we haven't seen between the U.S. and Israel before. And I think I would argue it's less between Israel. It's clear the Biden administration still supports Israel as strong as ever, but I think the faith in the Netanyahu government is becoming less and less. The trust in them actually abiding to rules that we would want in a conflict like this, the trust for that is less than before, for sure.
Yeah, let's get that map up if we can, so people at home can see what we're talking about here. We see the Gaza Strip there, really a tiny slice of land on the Mediterranean. Rafah, there is the border crossing with Egypt. Egypt is, of course, where the ceasefire talks are ongoing. West Bank, of course, is also Palestinian territory occupied there. We see Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Can I ask you your thoughts about these ceasefire talks? Because again, you could argue that neither side really has much of a cause to agree to this ceasefire, at least not yet. The Israelis continue to say, look, we are going to take Hamas off the map. That is our goal, to make sure October 7th never happens again. And as for Hamas, I mean, if they come to a ceasefire, there's also worries about what will happen to their leadership and whether that helps them or not. How much good faith do you think is actually happening here when it comes to the ceasefire talks?
That's a really good question. I agree with your analysis. Fully, both sides have strong interests in not coming to an agreement at this point, and that's a real challenge I think we're seeing. But that said, the agreement that is there, if you just look at the plain numbers, is certainly tilted towards the side of Hamas. So I can understand to some extent the Israeli hesitance to agree to this. I'm sure that the Israeli population certainly wants a ceasefire. I'm very sure that parts of the Israeli government want a ceasefire. To which extent Netanyahu really wants at this point is a different question. And to which extent Hamas really wants an agreement on this would certainly affect their power and their grip of power in Gaza and potentially the whole existence of their organization. So as you say, both sides at this point are not really, I would argue, as interested in resolution, which leads to why this is carrying on for so long.
Yeah, one last question just about, military objectives by Israel. Let me tap into your expertise when it comes to that, Anthony. The idea that the point of this is to eliminate Hamas, but all of their senior leadership is still alive, as far as we understand. They've still got thousands of fighters. And you could also make the argument that for every one Hamas fighter who is killed, you are allowing perhaps others to join or be inspired by what's going on as well. So, ultimately, is that objective even possible, to eliminate Hamas altogether?
No, I would argue that's not possible, at least not with weapons. It's not possible to bomb an ideology. Terrorism is an ideology. It's an idea. It's in people's heads. And so it's a huge challenge to want to do this with military weaponry. Of course, you need military weaponry to take out any command infrastructure, any facilities where they're training people, take out heavy weaponry. For that, military approaches are, of course, needed. But beyond that, a political solution is necessary. And that's what we're seeing here once again.
Anthony Seaboyer joining us from Kingston. He is a military and security analyst. Thanks for this, Anthony. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Todd.